All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Managing Partners podcast. But this is our new Tactical Tuesday series. So we'll be bringing on marketing experts from my team here at Array Digital to share tactical and practical things that you can do to improve your marketing, your advertising, and do it yourself if you need to. So we're going to go into very, technical things and work through each of them, everything from SEO, websites, and advertising. So thanks for tuning in. Today we have Brian Cole, and we're continuing our series about Google Ads. So, Brian, welcome to the show again.
Hey, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well,
third episode.
When you're not helping our clients crush it with Google Ads, you're on here telling them how they can do it.
Here with you.
So let's dive in. What are we talking about today?
Well, today we're talking about Google search ad keywords. So previously, the first episode we talked about Google Ads pretty broadly. How things were structured, lay of the land type stuff.
Yeah, kind of like an overview.
Yeah. On our second episode, we talked about landing pages and all the things that involves. And today I was thinking we could talk about keywords. Obviously, in Google search ads, keywords are huge. So yeah, that's the topic for today. I guess when they just dive in and kind of remind folks about what type of ads we're talking about here, real quick, and then dive into some of the specifics around sort of how we think about keywords. And then later on, I will get into, really like at a high level, like the step-by-step, if you were a law firm who was looking to do it yourself, how would you do it and how we think about those things. So
I love it. So yeah, keywords are probably important. I had to guess.
And just remind folks about sort of Google search ads, just really quick. The search ads that you see in Google, a search result page that are paid for. So if you're looking at a search result page, you see all the results there. It's the results at the top and the bottom that look a little bit different, but are very, very similar looking, and are sponsored. So, the way that those ads serve up when you see those next to the organic, non-paid for advertisement search results that are around SEO and content, all that kind of stuff, those are pay per click. So if you hear, the terms you'll hear, CPC, cost per click, PPC, pay per click, all those kind of things. When we talk about that stuff, we're talking about those ads that show up. Text ads, so they can include images and stuff in certain cases, that you pay for by click. So that's what we're talking about there. To talk about the ways that kind of works, you're bidding with competitors. That's the key thing to know here.
Sure.
So what you would pay for any individual click on your ad from a keyword that you're targeting is 1 cent above the lower competitor. So, if a competitor says, I'm willing to pay, I'm making up numbers here, $3 for that keyword, and you say you're willing to pay $5 for that keyword, you're not going to pay $5. You're going to pay $3.01. So that's good for advertisers, obviously. It's also good for Google, because they don't want you to sit there and hem and haw about, ooh, do I want to pay this much? And then be hesitant to put in a number that's up there, a little higher. So they want to give you the comfort that, don't worry, you're not paying some exorbitant amount more than your competitors because you entered some number. You're going to pay just a little bit more. And that way everyone nudges each other up. And Google likes that.
And Google makes a lot of money.
That's right.
Real quick,
so
to add something real quick. So, the PPC, the text ads, we're not talking about local service ads or LSA ads. All those are managed through your Google Ads account. But what about the, you see the ad in the map packs with the 3 map listings. Sometimes there's a 4th and it's sponsored. That's That's controlled through Google Ads as well.
That is paid for through Google Ads, but a separate account called Local Service Ads, which honestly would be a good podcast unto itself. But different ways to pay for advertising with Google. With Local Service Ads, you pay by lead. And if a lead is inappropriate, you can contest that and not pay for that lead. Whereas with Google search ads that we're talking about today, you pay by click, and the ways that you ensure that user is relevant to you is through keywords. So good segue into our whole keyword chat, because that's the way you really make sure that you're not, being shown and paying for clicks from folks who aren't appropriate for you. That keyword piece, the ways that you can apply keywords to Google Ads, you can essentially tell Google to serve up ads based on a sort of broad topic, or you can say, as closely as Google is willing to, show them just people who search this keyword. So the things there are match types. So we'll get into how you generate these keywords and how you enter them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But just talking about concepts right now, there are 3 types of match types that you would find in Google search ads. And those are broad, phrase, and exact. And basically, if you want to think about that conceptually as just opening the floodgates to Google, broad match, right? Here's personal injury lawyer, broad match, anything that's topically related to that Google thinks is appropriate, they will serve up. So there'll be all kinds of things outside of that individual keyword.
So you'll get a lot of different activities,
a lot of different stuff,
clicks coming through.
Stuff. Yep. Phrase match is kind of the in between. It's a little bit reined in. Phrase match, I personally don't use that much. I kind of go broad match or exact, depending. But others recommend that as well out in the industry. So phrase match is kind of, it's there, it's in between.
Can we give an example of that? So that'd be like kind of like I say something one way and it's like a variation of another way to say it. Is that kind of
completely? With broad match, you'll see all kinds of things that may or may not be appropriate for you. With phrase match, again, just reining it in a little bit, it's more variation. Most of a surprising percentage of the keywords that people enter are like brand new keywords that no one would ever consider entering as a keyword to bid for. People search all kinds of things. Once you get into Google Ads, you start seeing the exact things that people search. You realize it's pretty varied. And so the opening of the ability of Google to show, your law firm for these various types of searches that maybe aren't exactly what you're bidding for is smart. But moving to exact match, the most reined in one, Google does that even there. So it used to be more of exact match meant exact. And the thing for maybe folks to know about when it comes to these various match types for Google search ad keywords is that now exact match is, topically aligned. It's the most reined in that you can do, but you'll still see a lot of variation. And so we'll get into ways through the process of keyword creation, implementation, and optimization, the ways that you can ensure that Google's not going too broad and bringing in keywords that you don't want. So even within exact matches variation, I guess there's a summary there. And, there's ways that you can even rein Google in a little more that we'll get into.
Yeah. So just a quick add to that. I was talking to one of our clients this morning, and then we do some SEO. They're a small firm. So we're doing their web and SEO, but they do their own PPC. And, I was just talking, and actually Brian's got on a call with them and helped guide them through their account a little bit. And I was talking to him this morning, and he was saying that, he's got like 1,500, negative keywords, which we'll get into probably at some point. But my point is, I guess it's, even when you're doing exact match and all these other things, you have to like fight against, getting the wrong type of traffic and paying for those clicks. And so there's a lot to this, and strategies and tactics to make Google Ads, be as efficient as they can for you. And that's what this whole series is about, of course. So we're getting into the weeds on each little topic here. But
maybe building off of that, negative keywords. Why not go there now? I think that's a huge thing. So
yeah.
Negative keywords, maybe the name is self-explanatory, but it's you adding keywords that you see coming in based on whatever match type you applied that you don't want. And, so just thinking of easy examples, pro bono or something, right? If you're not looking for pro bono work and you targeted using exact match, right? This could still probably happen in exact match. Personal injury lawyer, your area. And someone searched that, they tacked on pro bono at the end. Or maybe personal injury is not a great example there, but nevertheless, and so there, that just is not appropriate for the firm. It's not what they're looking for. It's not what they're advertising. And so then you could say, hey, our negative keyword list, we'll add pro bono, we'll add free, whatever we find we see coming in. Based on our match type that we don't that doesn't work for us, and that as a sort of post launch, after you launch your ads, getting in there and monitoring not the keywords that you're targeting, but the actual search terms, like to the character that people are entering to find your ads based off of those keywords. Monitoring those is sort of a key activity after you launch ads, because you pay for those clicks, and to effectively use ad budget, you want to choose the right keywords from the outset, make sure they're organized appropriately. We'll get into all that, and then monitor them after the launch so that you don't have things coming through that you don't want. That's the control we have with Google.
Yeah, I mean, I think monitoring too. I think a lot of people I talk to, they set them up, and a month or two goes by, and then they'll go check in on them. Your money's just going out the door potentially. So it's just a lot of little things that you set up, and you also geographic. I don't want to get cases in this area, but people search for it and I come up. Obviously, there's geographic parameters within the ads as well, but I guess you could also use negative keywords in that regard, right?
Definitely. Yep.
So maybe there's a certain part of town or a place that I know this. We have clients that are like Michigan, Detroit. Detroit has different laws where some of our clients can't get good clients that don't have, there's a cap on whatever the fees could be, or they're not required to have a certain level of insurance. So it's just not a viable place for them. And so you can maybe do negative keywords for a location or a neighborhood or whatever, right? So,
and it's interesting too, because you don't, on the bidding topic, you don't bid by each individual keyword. You can, and that's one important thing to know, is that when thinking about bidding for these keywords, you're not going in there and bidding for every single one. You can do that. It's called manual CPC. But the way that we get it set up is, saying, here there's a bunch of keywords. It's appropriate for one topic, and it's in our campaign. A couple of ways that we can control costs there. What's the most we're willing to pay for a keyword? So that's called max CPC, maximum cost per click. By adding that, you're willing to ensure that there's not a single keyword that's super expensive that you didn't really plan for, that's coming in that is eating your entire budget. So we typically recommend going pretty high on that. If I'm building a new campaign, I might say, it depends very, very much. But if I'm building a new campaign, I might say, we don't want to pay $30 for a keyword, for example, and that's just a cap. Safety, it's just safety. It's just ensuring that there isn't something in there that's going to eat your budget very, very quickly. So anyway, that's one way that you can control costs. The other thing that you do is, when instead of bidding for each individual keyword, as some people who are new to Google Ads might imagine you do, instead you build in all the relevant keywords to a campaign, set that max cost per click, and then tell Google to, for instance, optimize for clicks. So Google will, by telling Google we're chasing after clicks, you can also tell them we're chasing after conversions, but we recommend that a little bit farther down the line. Google will do its own bidding within that big group of keywords that you added. And with that maximum in mind, Google will say, okay, we're going to look at all these keywords and maximize the number of clicks that this business gets. And then they do the bidding within those parameters that you set. So the good thing for any law firm that is thinking about doing this, on starting this on their own, is that you're not in there going, I don't know, I have 100 keywords here. I guess this one's $4, this one's $3. I don't know. I can imagine that being pretty confusing. Thankfully, you can just set the campaign to maximize clicks. That's what it's called. As a side note, and we talked about this, I believe, in our first episode here, if anyone wants to go back. But, as a side note, after you get those clicks, and assuming that you're measuring conversion actions, so calls, form, chat, anything that gets you that information, you can then gather data through that maximize clicks strategy, and then say to Google, you know what, let's maximize conversions. So what Google then will do is bid on those, do automatic bidding on those keywords for you to not get the most clicks, but get the most conversions, which obviously for any law firm is more important. That could mean fewer clicks. No problem. We're getting more conversions. And if we're seeing that our keywords, our search terms that are coming in are all relevant to our business, and we're adding negative keywords and we're making sure that things aren't coming in that we don't want, that's essentially, at a high level, how a law firm would want to best utilize their ad budget to ensure that they're getting the most actual leads that they can.
Yeah. That's a good tip right there. I think if you're listening and you've been running ads for 3 months, 6 months, or longer, and you're just still maximizing for clicks, if things have been going decent enough and you feel you've gotten conversions, you should be switching to a conversion tactic, I would think, right? So maybe something
it's huge. It has almost immediate impact, we find. The only hang up for a lot of kind of firms who are in the DIY space with Google advertising is that you need to be measuring those conversions in order for that to work. So if you're not measuring everything that people do in order to contact your firm, including phone calls, then, I would recommend against that and just sticking with clicks, which itself can be super effective. It's just one level up in that user journey. But if you're not measuring conversions, I wouldn't, sort of let that stop you from Google Ads. I'd say just maximize clicks and go for it, because that can work too.
And I've talked to and met a lot of savvy marketing attorneys that like to get in there and do things. So completely. If you are doing that, yeah, and that's something you didn't know, but yeah, track everything, right? We got to track as much as we can so that you can make sure you're getting ROI, and then you can make improvements. So yep. Definitely have to be tracking everything. So, and that's what the last episode, actually, episode 2 of this Tactical Tuesday series on ads is on landing pages. Obviously, very important. That's going to help you track and add those different tracking features like call numbers and forms and stuff like that, chat. Mm-hmm. So yeah, track everything from the get-go. Mm-hmm. If you're starting a new ads campaign, set up those things to track as much as you can in the beginning. Yeah. And that's going to give you better data to go off of.
Exactly. And, the other thing you want to do is, thinking about, the previous stuff we talked about involved a lot of how to organize Google Ads, and keywords come into play there heavily, as you might expect. So, Google Ads has a setup that's like parent-child kind of structure. Campaigns are at a high level. Ad groups fall within campaigns. So 2 terms that you'll hear.
And then ads itself, right?
And then the ads itself fall within or in the ad groups. Yep. Yeah. And so keywords.
Yeah, real quick, I know where you're going, but like, I don't want to have, if I'm a law firm that does, I want auto accidents and truck accidents and slip and falls and workers' compensation and all this. Like, I don't want to just have one big, huge campaign.
Exactly.
So is that where you're going with it? Probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
If we're thinking about maximizing the conversions through providing a beneficial user experience, then the thing that a firm that jumps into Google Ads wouldn't want to do is say, we do car, truck, motorcycle, we do this, we do that, we do who knows, we do family law too, right? And they add all those keywords in, they send everyone to like the homepage, and then that person, they're not having a great experience, because in that example, that extreme example, we kind of can't even in the ads speak to the issue they searched. And so the way that we organize keywords within Google Ads is, first of all, know that they live in ad groups, which are a subset of campaigns. So if you can just visualize in your mind, motor vehicle accident campaign, the ad groups underneath that campaign are auto, truck, motorcycle. What we would then do is take, as probably no surprise to anyone listening to this, but motorcycle keywords, put them in the motorcycle ad group. So that easy example is just
revolutionary, Brian. Revolutionary.
It's wild. That is just an easy example in terms of how you categorize, how you apply those things within the organization. The reason that you want to be aware of that, even if it seems obvious on its face, is because you can go deeper. You can say all the keywords that we have that use near me, we're going to have ad and special ad group for that. We're going to talk about locality. We're going to talk about whatever people need to know, or we think they need to know around us being super local. Again,
well, that goes back to the ad being super relevant to the search they performed, right?
Yeah, exactly. The keywords, keyword text, topically matching ad text, super key. And then, going back to the second episode, landing pages, where they land needs to align with all that. So, yeah, one thing we haven't touched on, I'm realizing, is exactly how people would come up with these keywords. So people might be wondering, like, cool keywords. How, where, what?
Well,
so maybe we go there.
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of the lawyers, when I'm talking to them, they're lawyers, and they use their own lingo and personal injury attorney or whatever technical terms that they might use, and a lot of assumption that the general public will search this way. And I need to be number one for auto accident attorney. Well, do you ever use the word auto in just as an example, right? Hey, I'm going to take my auto vehicle to get some work done at the, it's just, so people use lots and lots of different types of words trying to figure out what they're looking for. And so that's where it becomes difficult, but you also have to you got to do more research. You got to expand out and say, okay, what are people really looking for? And I think even in different markets, different parts of the country, you'll have people that say things differently, right? And look for different things. So if you're listening to this, like, you got to think out of the box from what you think you do versus like what your customers or clients are actually searching for. And that's where the research and sometimes we got to go outside the box and think what we can do. And that way you can be more competitive. When everyone's out there buying car accident attorney or auto accident attorney, and you're like, I can't compete. Well, there's probably a lot of other ways to get around that and to find areas that they aren't, they're not hammering on. So
yeah, and the tool I'd recommend to anyone diving in is Keyword Planner. It's a Google tool. It's tied to Google Ads, and what we recommend is intuitively come up with like that small list of keywords that would work for you. Keyword Planner has a maximum of 10 in this way. So, you're maxed out at 10. You got to stay tight and, just stuff that makes sense. Entering that into Keyword Planner, Google then provides you with many, many suggestions just around the search volume of those things. So
hundreds of suggestions. Usually,
hundreds
right?
of suggestions, etc. So working from there, you can really look and make keyword selections using all kinds of just knowledge about your business, but also data. And so, the things that Keyword Planner has, the search volume, for instance, I'd say estimated search volume, and there, that's probably a good one to start with. The way that I look at that in Keyword Planner is not saying, oh, I don't know, 40 searches a month for this. It doesn't seem like a lot. I typically look at it as like a score, a way to compare one keyword in that giant list to another, sort of what is most searched versus least searched. Because those keywords are going to you're not limiting yourself to the 40 people who might search it. It's something that you want to look at to say, like, we want to bring in the most searched things, and we want to then pick a match type that works for us. So probably starting with exact match is another recommendation to bring in. If in doubt, I would say start with exact match. But anyway, I think that going through Keyword Planner, the process there is take your 10 or so, enter it in, look at everything that gets spit out there, and then you can start organizing by campaign and ad group, and looking at the top search things that apply to you, removing things that don't, and all that kind of stuff. Keyword Planner is pretty good at bringing in keywords that make sense. So it's not going to be a bunch of random stuff where you're like, where is this from? It's going to all be pretty sensible stuff. And with some light editing, you can then bring that into an organization that you think makes sense when it comes to the campaign and ad group. Again, the motor vehicle accident, car, truck, motorcycle type of structure. And then you start applying those things to Google Ads and see how it works.
Well, to add a couple extras here, because I'm such an expert, I use Keyword Planner all the time. So everyone out there, Keyword Planner, just Google it. It's a Google tool. It's basically a view into ads before you do ads. So it's going to give you a lot of, you can plan. I use it for SEO to look at how many people are searching this. What's the competition, right? So that's another thing. The keyword might be a very difficult keyword. And so you can kind of see that too. Like, yeah, I'd like to have this, but man, it's probably harder. So think about that too. But then also I wanted to kind of mention intent. Like, I use that word a lot around here. We all do. Because technically you could bid on words or phrases that are question or they're low intent. And obviously you might add one word into a high intent search and make it not as high intent. So look at that. I think if you're doing PPC or Google Ads, we focus mostly on high intent, exact match if possible, location specific, to pull it down to okay, we want to really be specific, because if not, you're going to waste money on very low or top of the funnel type stuff.
Yeah, and other things that are in Keyword Planner, seasonality is a thing for some firms, perhaps. Good point. Is the search for that keyword increasing or decreasing? Competition. I'm so happy you mentioned that, Kevin, because that's huge. I mean, if you see something that is marked by Google as low competition, applies to you, and that could be a goodie.
As long as there's some volume.
And then they also apply the top of page and bottom of page expected bid amounts. So that's something to consider too. If you look and you think, well, in our budget, we'd get one click a day, probably not a good keyword to select. Or you try it, and if that turns out to be the case, then maybe you kill that keyword. A lot of these things in Keyword Planner, take them with a grain of salt. They're like directionally sending you in the right way. because the actual real world application it'll be different. There's all kinds of things that impact the amount that you would pay for a keyword. So we're just looking at Keyword Planner as like strategic direction.
Yeah.
And we're not going to know the real cost or the real performance until we know, which is all of our post-launch work that we do.
Yeah, when I'm using it, it's really and I tell potential clients, hey, I show it to them like, this is potential and it looks viable, and here's what we're looking at here. And then I can say, hey, let's look at this town or this city or this zip code or this, let's go bigger or whatever. And you can actually forecast in this tool. Forecast. It's not, it's like the Weather Channel. They're not always right, but it's a forecast. But you can see how much, if I spent $2,000 a month, how many clicks am I going to get? How many conversions is that likely to be? And it'll tell you all that. So yeah, it gives you an idea. It's not real world because it's all forecast based on historic data. But it gives you a pretty good guide. So if you see like, hey, at the lowest end of that, or be conservative, go lower than what it's saying, will that still be effective for me? I would use that as a good kind of guide. Don't take those numbers and go, oh, I'm going to get 40 conversions this month if I spend $1,000. That might not be your situation. Yeah. And if your ads aren't written well and they're not separated into campaigns and groups and ads specific, and if they're not written well and the landing pages aren't good and all these other things, then that won't be your outcome, potentially.
Yeah.
That's what the search is all about. To help you.
Keyword Planner doesn't know what's going to be on your landing page. They don't know. So there's so much that you can do, that a law firm could do, or a digital agency like us could do to improve click-through rate of the ad based on the topical theme, I would call it, organization. I guess, I organize keywords by theme in ad groups, if you want to think about it that way. And the conversion rate on that landing page. So even just, not even with like sophisticated testing and all those kind of things, that an agency might do, even just, if you are thinking about a little DIY Google Ads, just intuition on some of that stuff. Like what would someone, what's our key value prop here? What do we want to say to this thematic group of people who are searching this theme? And in both the ad and the landing page, you can get wildly sophisticated, of course, through testing and all that, real data decision making. But if that's not at your fingertips, firms know a lot about themselves, and with the right organization in Google Ads, can get pretty close to saying the right thing. As a digital advertiser, I think that the testing and the stuff hugely valuable, not diminishing it, but with the right organization, people can get to a good starting point, even before they seek help.
Well, I was talking to one of our clients today. They're younger attorneys, a year in business almost. Like, they're doing decent in their Google Ads, and maybe we'll take them over for them at some point where it's like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. But I think it's good that they have some understanding and that they're not just going to rely on someone to do it and have no clue how it works. I think that's a big problem with everything out there. The lawyers of the law firm don't understand what they hire agencies to do at all, which can cause a lot of problems. So that's why we're here to educate. But so I think it's fine to do it yourself, start yourself, figure it out, especially if you don't have the funds or to hire someone else to do it. And then you can hand it off once you're like, you know what, I don't think I need to be doing this anymore. And find someone that can help you do it. And then you can do that at different levels, right? Hiring us would be the top level, but but you can find other people out there and freelancers and people to help you out. So I wanted to kind of go back real quick, and then I'm not sure what's else on your agenda that we got to get through, but I just would go back to, again, these are, for me, that's what I would want to do is, I was talking about our strategy the other day with Brian. Very exact, targeted, and high intent. That's what I think about when I'm thinking of Google Ads. versus like, say I'm a divorce firm, divorce near me, divorce attorney, divorce lawyer near me, all those kinds of things. Pretty straightforward for divorce. But I wouldn't want to see my client spending a lot of money on how long does it take to get a divorce, or like things that could be not a person looking for a divorce attorney searches. Like I think naturally a lawyer would like, oh, I want to come up for those questions. But really you should be leveraging your SEO, your content to come up for those things. They're a better place to be for it. And you're not going to waste a lot of money on clicks on people that aren't even in market. So just another tip or thought I had. So.
Yeah, and data can drive that too. So, if you're measuring your conversions, which is so huge, again, forms, chat, phone, then you can look at the conversions by keyword too. So you can see
what's driving the conversion.
Someone searched for that example maybe, or they're say someone is searching for that a lot, clicking on your ad a lot. No one's converted. That would be a good thing to stop, right? I mean, it's not leading to conversions. You're in that higher funnel educating space with your ads. But if you find that someone is searching for what you might assume is maybe a higher funnel type of search, but you're seeing that people are converting at a high level, then you can make that decision about whether it's appropriate for them to engage with you, even if they are higher funnel. You're kind of helping them down, that marketing journey.
That's a good point.
So, the data can drive that decision too.
Well, I was thinking, okay, let's just say a more sophisticated firm that's like, hey man, high intent, we're crushing it. We're maxed out. We can't even spend our budget, and we've kind of gone as far as we want to go geographically. What else can we do? Well, yeah, you could start going after those question type things and higher funnel, and you have a downloadable. Everything you need to know about getting a divorce in Virginia. And they download it, you get their name, their email, you retarget them, you show them Facebook, Instagram ads. Now you have them in your funnel, right? So as you're more sophisticated and your budgets are larger, then you can start to go outside and say, all right, let's get all the people that have questions about divorce in Virginia, in this case, or whatever. But have like a lead magnet, a downloadable, or something where you can collect their information. And then
definitely, yeah,
that might be viable for you, and say, hey, I'll spend $2,000 a month on, getting 100 new contacts in our CRM that we can email, and we can do workshops and webinars and whatever, right? So you can get a lot more sophisticated with it for sure.
Definitely. And also in the organization of the ads, you could we've done things like have a how to fill in the blank ad group. So, there it's, you are, you're seeing what's happening with the handful of like how to do a thing or these types of questions. And you basically take those things and group them. And then it's real easy to draw insights from the data about whether that's working or whether that's just ad dollars that are going nowhere or what's happening, Side benefit is that you can also speak to that in the ads and the landing page if you want to, right? I mean, you can sort of answer those questions more directly as opposed to, lumping those into the general campaign that then has you landing on a, general page and not really answering the question as directly. So it all ties together. More, higher conversions, you would think, from a firm that's answering the question directly. Yep. Looks like, ooh, this is of interest. So yeah, all the strategies kind of come together.
Yeah, well, it's all about the keywords, right? So if I'm searching for how long does it take to get a divorce in Virginia, that's the keyword, right? We're bidding on. And I think, with like these, if you separate those in different campaigns, and there might be different questions that are, let's say, the top 5 FAQs that you always get asked, and that's on your website that you're answering from an SEO perspective. You might have, make a lead magnet for each one of those, so it's super specific. And see, one might not work, and we've done this in the past. Like, hey, this one lead magnet gets a ton of downloads; these other ones don't get nothing. So, kill those and maybe you just have you bullet down to like, hey, this one seems to always be the one that gets downloaded. So let's make that our main, kind of lead magnet, if you will.
Yeah.
But it all comes out of keywords. So,
what
else we got, Brian? What else we got? What else spicy? Spicy stuff
we can touch on don'ts. There's only a single, in this series we talked about like the don'ts, the don't do a thing. Just because there's things change rapidly. I wouldn't expect attorneys to keep up with every ticky-tack digital marketing change. Single keyword ad groups, SKAGs as the acronym, is a thing you might see recommended out there. And I would just stay away from it. A single keyword ad group is what it sounds like. It's, you have your campaign, you have your ad. It's one keyword in that ad group. And so you have a ton of ad groups. And that was a thing that people were doing a while ago for conversion reasons. But now, the way Google is organized and it's just not recommended. I would just stick to themes. So that's one don't I can throw out there if that makes people's lives easier, knowing if you see that around, you can ignore it. And then, I think probably we could dive into maybe our summary. Do we miss anything about the setup, I wonder? I don't think so. We touched on organization. We touched on match types. We touched on maintaining costs. We touched on negative keywords. We touched on how to find your keywords.
High intent keywords.
The one thing we didn't mention maybe in Keyword Planner is location. So in Keyword Planner, you can set your location that or adjust your location, expand or contract that to see what happens, and bring that into your sort of initial campaign.
Yep.
I feel like we kind of got there on keywords.
Would you say, I know you use broad match sometimes for some things, but for someone starting, like someone listening right now is like, I'm going to get my own Google ads. I can do this myself. And again, I know plenty that do that and have done that and done fairly successful. Would you say don't do broad match if you're just kind of starting out, or is that good for like just getting some data and kind of like trying to hone it in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. And so I would say that, if you were budget conscious, you might want to start exact match. But, at the same time, if you have the, if you're willing to put in the effort to monitor broad match, it can be super successful. So I wouldn't discourage just out of the box anyone from going broad match. Okay. The thing that you really need to do is just monitor that, because you can switch from, for instance, if you switch from exact to broad match, you might go back in some days and be like, whoa, this is not what we want,
Where my budget
that is not uncommon, at all. And so, it really depends. I think that if you start with exact match, the thing that you could find sometimes is that you're not getting the volume of clicks that you need. Sometimes you'll learn, that, oh, wow, we started with this topic in this geo, and there just simply aren't that many people searching for these individual keywords in that geo to get us the volume that we want and utilize our budget. You may be not spending your entire budget, for example. And in that case, multiple options. Expand your geo. The downside there is that you might expand out, the farther you go, potentially, depending on your business, the less likely people are to convert, perhaps.
Yeah. So hey, my office is here, and that's 300 miles away, and they might not like, hey, why would I hire a lawyer that's 2 cities away from me?
Yep. And so your conversion rate can go down. That in itself isn't bad if you're still, achieving the conversions, So, it not in itself bad. But is definitely a factor. The other thing you could do is go broad match and say, maybe we limited our keywords too much here. Let's go broad match, check in once a day and see what's happening.
Add negative keywords.
Add negative keywords. If you're adding a negative keyword here and there, but like generally speaking, the keywords are looking relevant to your business, then I think you found a good thing, and then broad match probably works for you. Again, you can look, it's called, if search term is a thing to keep in mind there. If you're navigating around Google Ads, trying to find it, the search terms as opposed to keywords are what you'd want to look at there to see the character thing that people are searching. And if things are looking relevant there, then you're good. There are always going to be people who convert and you're saying like, this is not a real person for our business. And, the challenge there, that's always going to happen. The challenge there is that, sometimes you don't know until you know, and you're talking to the actual person and you can't tell from their keyword if they're searching for something that on its face is relevant to your business. Sometimes you just need to pay for that click, get that conversion, and then learn that they're not appropriate for you. But when everything comes together and you take that into account, the thing that we look at is a lot is cost per conversion. And we touched on this previously in previous episodes, but if your cost per conversion is you think beneficial, given that maybe maybe one out of every, I don't know, making up a number, but 5 contacts become an actual client, and your cost per conversion is $200, then you want to make sure that, again, in very simple math on this silly example, that you're making more than 1,000 in revenue from that from that one client that you do get in that example. So roughing out ROI like that is pretty key there.
So now these people have to learn math? Jeez.
That'd
be another episode. Another episode on math, which I'm terrible at, by the way. So I'm not sure if I can be part of that. Great summary, Brian. There's a lot of stuff. Keywords are super important. A lot that you can do with them. Lots of different ways to impact your campaigns. But
definitely
appreciate that. So anything else we got to share?
I think I got us there.
We're good.
Yeah,
a little bit of some notes in there, and some do's, and some tricks.
Hopefully, we distilled it in a way that's digestible for folks who haven't been in the platform.
If you're watching this, you see this episode that's been up for a while, whatever, pop a comment, ask a question, ask me, tag me, or Brian, and we will happy to engage and answer the question. So we appreciate you tuning in, and Brian, thanks for sharing today. We're diving into the next episode, and looking forward to it. So
thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Have a good day.